You're listening to Radio Cosmos.
All night long.
Bravo!
My compliments, little lady.
Commercial!
Break for 30 seconds.
You are now listening to BaaD Radio.
Hello and welcome to BaaD Radio. BaaD stands for Business at a Distance. This is a show about local businesses and business networking. We are here in the News Radio WFLA Orlando studios from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. every Sunday. I'm your host, Angela Smorito, and in studio with me we have Melissa Jacob.
Hello, hello.
And her business is called Striking Brand, but Melissa does all of our YouTube videos. So if you go to baadradio.com, that's BaaD radio.com, you can see all of the previous episodes of the show. And if you go to strikingbrand.com, you can see all of her other work because she is a videographer as well as a photographer.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. We are very honored to have Captain Anthony Singleton and Staff Sergeant Jonathan Carter with the United States Marines in studio with us today. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Why?
A laugh?
Why the laugh?
He's just pushing buttons in there.
Mashing them around.
Okay, so I wanted to ask before we all got started with here. Okay, so I want to know the hierarchy. So obviously Captain is above Staff Sergeant. So how does it go, like ranking wise?
Yes, ma'am. So you have basically enlisted enlisted ranks, and then you have officer ranks.
Okay.
So enlisted E1 to E9, starting at private, and then all the way with sergeant major or sergeant major in the Marine Corps. And then for the officer side, you have O1 all the way up to O10. So starting from second lieutenant all the way up to that 4-star general.
Okay, so Staff Sergeant is where in the hierarchy? So you're not a private anymore. You've gone up.
That's
from.
right. Yeah, so I'm a E6.
Okay.
On the enlisted side.
E6.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You're going to have to school me on that a little bit more. Do you understand all this, Melissa?
I don't remember them, but I remember the gist, you know.
Right.
I don't remember. You couldn't tell me to list them and go up the thing, but. Yeah.
It sounds a lot more complicated than I thought it was going to be, though.
Yeah.
But anyway, but first we're going to talk about the networking news, and it is brought to you by Symphonic CBD. Symphonic CBD is a branch of Live Your Best Life, and they're both advocates of Green Compass Global. Green Compass products are USDA, organic, lab-tested, non-GMO, made in the USA, and cruelty-free. CBD products are key to making calmness a habit. They also have CBD for our fur babies. And to get more information on the benefits of CBD, visit symphonic-cbd.com. That's symphonic-cbd.com. All right, so for the networking news, I talked to you guys a little bit about this before the show started. In the world, so we're having you guys in today, the Marines, in to talk about recruitment. And so I know that's the area that you guys both work in. Are there networking events that you go to? Is there a forum for this within the Marine, and does it branch out outside of the Marines, or just kind of stick in within the Marine Corps?
Yes, ma'am. So you have networking events inside the Marine Corps, and then outside, particularly for my office. So networking events at those career fairs at those local colleges, and universities. So you've got UCF up
Right.
the street. They'll have about 400, 500 companies that are there. And you're talking with them, seeing what their applicants are kind of going through.
Okay, so they're set up. It's like a job fair, but basically, you guys are set up as a career opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I like that. That's interesting. And so that goes for USF, UCF, all of the
Yes, ma'am.
all the colleges. What about junior colleges?
So for high schools, we do different types of networking. So we have, the individual-based networking that we do, obviously within colleges and high schools, and different places around the community. But we also do, group networking with you guys, contacting our media specialists. And all you have to do that is kind of just reach out to your local recruiting station, and they can get you in contact with the media specialist, and we could do events like this.
Right. No, this is great. I love having you in. I'm curious about high schools, though. Are there more restrictions on? I don't want to use the word soliciting because it makes it sound like a sale, but you know what I mean.
To kids.
What's that?
To kids.
But you know what I mean. To basically start talking to somebody that's under the age of 18, even though I know that's a target demo.
Mm-hmm.
So for the enlisted side, with high schools here in Florida, there's not really a problem with it. So our targets is primarily juniors that's about to enter their senior year, and then seniors in high school.
I have one of those. He's 16.
Right. So we go to all public schools, some private schools as well. and it kind of falls under the Every Student Succeeds Act that allows
Okay.
us, the DoD, to come into the schools and offer the military lifestyle.
So
to
what do
the
you guys
young
do?
men
Do
and
you
women.
set up like you do it like because I have a relationship with the Marines through event marketing. Having Marines come up and set up events and the pull-up bar and just a lot of
Oh, I
activities.
didn't know that.
Oh yeah, that's I used to have them for Earth Day birthday when I worked
okay.
for WJRR and that's how I got this connection too.
Just with the Marines, you did any other armed forces?
I did not. I have not. So, like I said, when I worked here at iHeart, it was the Marines, and then with Mindful Media Group, I reached out to the Marines, and that's how I met Sergeant Moorjohn, and
Okay.
she's who helped us organize
Nice.
this here today. But we've been setting up events, and we've done a couple so far. So, do you set like at the high schools? Do you bring the pull-up bar? Is that like the biggest catch, like as far as a hook?
So we actually just do everything.
Okay, what are some of the
Um,
other things you do?
The pull-up bar is a big one, especially with the high school students because they
Right.
love getting on there and trying to show off.
Competitive.
And then usually all the recruiters will get worn out because it's like, well, how many can you do? And we're like,
Right,
yeah.
oh my gosh, we've already done like 100 today, but we'll do some more for you.
Right.
But yeah, we love the pull-up bars. We also do the career fairs at the school.
Mm-hmm.
We help with the librarians, the media specialists there.
Really?
We help in the classroom. We do classroom presentations, and then if the school has ROTC groups, obviously we get
yeah.
in there as well.
Oh, you know what? I forgot about ROTC. That's a big pull. Now, does ROTC favor one branch of the military, or is it all? Is it Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, or is it does it cover all four of them?
So it covers all four of them, but a high school will only have one branch, ROTC group. But it doesn't necessarily like favor that group. It's just falling under an umbrella.
That umbrella.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
And how is that determined? I'm wondering.
I actually don't know.
That's okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
They rock,
Sometimes-
paper, scissors.
Yeah. Sometimes I ask questions that I'm not really like. I'm just wondering.
Is there a competition when you were talking about doing recruiting at like these events? Is there competition recruiting between the different armed forces?
Sometimes it's usually pretty friendly though. But
Yeah.
like if we're doing a big event at the school, every branch is going to come out and give their pitch, offer what they have, and
As they
show the
should.
differences and stuff.
Yeah, I meant because each branch is individual, and there's going to be something that's going to appeal to the individual. I remember there was an event out in Winter Springs, and I can't remember. Oh, it was like the 4th of July, and there was a big group out there, and the Marines were out there, and my son and his friends were so impressed. My husband's a little. I mean, he's pretty jacked, but he's older, right? So he was doing it, and I can't remember how many he got to, but to the point where everybody was like watching him, and he got the shirt that says "Pain is fear." What is it?
Pain is weakness, leaving the body.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And Aiden loves that shirt. We're gonna have to get him a new one though, because he's outgrown it. Because that was like 2 years ago. But I can see where it appeals to. What about women though? I mean, because you guys have to recruit women just as well, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So I mean, it's the same way that you're recruiting. We're just recruiting that demographic. So what does a male want versus what does a female want? Hey, they both want leadership. They both want challenge. Patriotism. It just runs the gamut with what they want.
Right.
It's more of appealing to what's your why. What's your
why? I
you
like
know?
that. Yeah.
Going through life, like you gotta have that. You have to have that, not just in the Marine Corps, but just in life.
Right.
Because you won't go to that school. You won't get that next career. You won't go to that college. So what's your why for doing all of that? That's what we really get down to.
Is there certain events that tend to skew more male versus female? Because like I know that at like the Earth Day birthdays, and then the one I saw, it was the pull-up bar was primarily men. I saw maybe two women.
Yeah, I mean that's anywhere you go. I think the girls are gonna be like, "I'll let you have this."
Yeah,
one.
but there's got to be something that you do that kind of like appeals to women.
So we'll go with the sports teams that are male sports teams or female sports teams. So I guess we kind of tailor our events to those. That's how we target males or females.
Right, through the sports that they like. So,
Yes, ma'am.
but I mean, it's still physical, which I think is cool.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, what that music means we're going to break. So that first 10 minutes is already up. Kind of crazy, right? So everybody stay tuned for more BaaD Radio.
Welcome back to BaaD Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back, and this portion of BaaD Radio is brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore. It's getting cooler out there, so it's time to cuddle up with your loved one, but first, a trip to Premier Couple Superstore. Premier Couple Superstore has got a huge selection of lingerie, shoes, toys, games, love oils, and a ton of great gifts. With Premier Couple Superstore, you don't pay those high prices because you're going to go directly to the source. 5009 South OBT, or shop online at premiercouples.net, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Oh, yeah.
Nah, I know.
That one, I don't know about that one. That one's gonna make me blush if they keep that one. We gotta go back to the what's the movie from the other one?
It was from Ferris Bueller's
Yeah, we
Day
gotta
Off.
go back.
Yeah, we're gonna have to ask for a less dirty. Oh yeah, for the next one.
Yeah.
They're blushing too. So we're here with Captain Anthony Singleton and Staff Sergeant Jonathan Carter with the United States Marines. So yeah, one of my sponsors is Premier Couple Superstore. So I don't even know if either of you are old enough to know what that is. But anyway, they're a great sponsor. They're a great a great family-owned business here, and so we love supporting them. But we always have a lot of fun with that. All right, so before break, we're talking about some of the networking opportunities within the Marines, but I want to backtrack a little bit because, we want to kind of get to know you and understand what brought you to where you're sitting at today. So let's start with Captain first. How did you get involved with the Marines?
Yes, ma'am. So I originally was at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide.
He says shameless plug. No shameless, just plug away.
And doing aerospace engineering.
Really?
Yes, ma'am. So very tough major. That major did not end up working out for me. Fought it tooth and nail up until my junior year there. Then I went to the Marine recruiter. I talked to my uncle before. He's a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps. Talked to him before, and he said really the only branch to go is the Marine Corps.
Well, of course, because he was in it. What else is he going to say?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of pride.
Oh, yeah, my dad was in the Navy, so my brother is in the Navy.
Right.
Obviously.
Yeah.
One of those.
And 3 months later, I found myself at Parris Island, South Carolina, going through boot camp 2013. And that's really where it all began. So I went reserves first because I wanted to finish school. I thought that was the quickest way for me to finish school. You can still finish school the same amount of time.
How does that? Like I said, how does that work? So with the reserve, so you're not you didn't leave college, is what you're saying?
No, ma'am. So I did leave college.
Okay.
It was about a year of training. So boot camp, then Marine combat training, then your MOS school. So field radio operator for me. That training pipeline took about a year, and then fall of 2014, I enrolled back into school, back into Georgia State University. At that point, I started going through what we call the platoon leaders course program for the officer selection officer side, and I went to OCS in 2016, the summer of 2016. Did my 10 weeks there, and then had another year of school to finish out. So you can do our training. I did our training while I was actually in school.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought you had to finish school first.
No, not a lot of people know about the PLC. So freshmen can start, and they go to 2 6-week courses. So in between your freshman and sophomore year, you can attend OCS, come back, junior and senior year, attend OCS, senior year, that graduation date, you can graduate and walk across the stage in your dress blues.
That's
fantastic.
fantastic.
That's really cool. When you went back to school, did you change your major?
I did.
Yeah,
I changed my major to managerial sciences.
Okay.
Right.
At that
it's that
point,
math stuff, man. It's a bitch. I'm telling you. I know. My son. It is. It's he's in AP Calc right now, and he's a junior, and he's like, man, mom, because I'm like, I get it. I get it.
It's tough.
So I can't help him with it either. So okay, so you went from So when you graduated college, did you have to go how does that work? You're a Marine. That's your job.
So I was a Marine while I was going through finishing up my my last 3 years, we'll say, at Georgia State. So I was a sergeant before I commissioned, sergeant in the reserves when I went to OCS. Before I commissioned, that day I commissioned, I was a second lieutenant. So I finished out school. About a week later, I pushed my commissioning date out to make sure that I got all the requirements in and everything. A week after that happened, I had my commissioning ceremony. And then I had about a month and a half before I did our follow-on training. So the equivalent of Marine combat training for enlisted is the basic school for officers. That was about 6 months. Went through that. Had some hiccups in there, so I actually got designated to be an infantry officer from TBS.
Was that scary?
No, ma'am. That's exactly what I wanted.
Oh, okay.
What I wanted to be.
When I hear infantry, I think scary.
Well, you're a mama.
Right.
Of course.
I think scary.
Well, I ended up having a heat case situation during a hike, and I didn't get a chance to go back through that course again. But redesignated as an air defense control officer.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it's about lead Marines. That's the MOS. So and that was that was 2018 and 2019. Checked in my first unit, Beaufort, South Carolina, at Max 2 EWC. So early warning and control. We basically can see everything that's in the sky. We monitor air assets and everything. So I was there for about 3 years during that COVID period as well too.
Super fun, right?
Yes, ma'am. It was challenging, but we still got the training done. And then I actually just got down here as an officer selection officer last year, finishing going into my second year as officer selection officer.
Okay.
What do you guys have to do during COVID during training?
The
Y'all have to wear masks and everything and
yes,
all
ma'am. The mask
Separate.
mandates, separation.
How does that even work?
We're doing
I know, especially I think about the
Sounds
sleeping arrangements,
crazy.
Yeah,
because they're kind of like all on top of each other.
So the barracks rooms they spread those out a little bit
Right.
to mitigate that.
Accommodate.
But we went to a 24-hour kind of op, so we had different people rotating every 8 hours. That way we were
Gotcha.
mitigating that piece.
And what brought you into this recruitment role?
I wanted to come down here, so I had a good experience with my officer selection officer, and then I just like telling people about my story, how I got into the Marine Corps. It went from not even thinking about the military and not like I was saying no to it, just not ever considering it, to 10 years. 10 years now, I've had great experiences.
There's got to be so much pride putting on the uniform, though. I know how I feel when people from military walk in. I immediately just want to stand up taller and just say thank you, because there's something very nostalgic about it, and it's just like a beautiful thing.
Yes,
So, all right, so you're here now because you want to be here.
Oh yes, ma'am. I love being here. I love being officer selection officer.
All right, up next, let's see. Tell us a little bit about your story.
So I'm actually from a really, really small town in Arkansas. It's about 30 minutes north of Little Rock.
Okay.
So I graduated in 2016. I started college, but I just got super complacent. And like Captain Singleton, I never really looked at the military. I didn't have a ton of family that was in it, but my dad did retire from the Air Force. So, he had all the cool stories, traveling the world, doing cool things. So I always had that in the back of my mind. And so when I'm working the 9 to 5 and getting tired of college, I was like, man, I just want to have some of those cool stories.
Right.
So I told my dad, and, college was paid for, everything was taken care of, and he almost killed me. He's like, why would you do that? Like, just finish college and start your job. I'm like, well, I just kind of want to be like you a little bit and get all these cool things in my back pocket.
I love that, though. I love that. It's like being able to be yourself and not just following the mold of what society tells us that we're supposed to do.
For sure. Yeah. And that's something I talk about all the time, too, which we could talk about later. So the first thing we did is we just went straight to the Air Force recruiting office after he agreed that I could do the military, even though I was 18. And we ended up going to every single branch of the military. But for me personally, I just went with the Marines.
Right. So you shopped them all, and then from that, you took all that information in, and did you really sit down with like a pros cons list, or did you just say, I'm a Marine?
Oh, 100%. I was one of the kids that came into the recruiting office and was like, hey, I'm not signing nothing. I'm just here for info, and then I'm leaving. And they're like, okay, that's cool. So I did that with every branch. Then I went home, did pros and cons, talked with friends, family, weighed out the options. And 2 days later, I was in the Marine Corps office, ready to go to boot camp.
What does your dad think?
Oh, he loves it. He loves it.
He's good with it.
Going back to the friendly competition, we have it all the time.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he's probably as proud as could be, for sure. But yeah, so he probably was like, wanted you to go in his direction, though, huh?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, those are awesome stories. I could talk about those forever. So we are going to go to break, and when we get back, we're going to talk more with the Marines. So stay tuned for more BaaD Radio.
Welcome back to BaaD Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
And welcome back to the show. And this portion of the show is brought to you by BODY Street of Winter Park. Experience the future of fitness at BODY Street in Winter Park. Lose weight, build muscle, tone your body in only 20 minutes a week. Visit bodystreet.us, where fitness meets efficiency. So we're very honored to have Captain Singleton and Staff Sergeant Carter in the studio with us today. And we've had a couple of segments where we got to talk about some networking opportunities, and then we got to learn a little bit about their backstory. So I wanted to ask you guys, so I know I've asked you this question while we were not on the show, but so there's several different recruitment branches within the state of Florida and all states, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And so which one are you guys out of?
So we're out of RS Tampa, Recruiting Station Tampa.
Oh, wow.
So it's a little bit different from the enlisted and officer side. Staff Sergeant, where do y'all cover on the enlisted side in there?
So for the enlisted side, RS Tampa is our headquarters. But me personally, I run the office here in Winter Park and then one in Orlando.
Where's the one in Winter Park at?
Do you know where Target's at on Colonial?
Yes,
Colonial?
I do.
It's in the same plaza there.
Okay.
And then the Orlando one is actually in Ocoee on West Colonial by Publix.
Right. I got you. And so how many are there? So there's a difference here. There's like one head office, and then there's like sub offices that are out there. And anybody can go to any of those at any time to ask questions, collect information, sign up, that
Yes,
sort
ma'am.
of thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have people that just come in on a daily basis and ask questions?
Usually. Our office hours are typically like Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. But to make things easier, if you're, want to come in on a Saturday or something, you could just Google Marine Corps office near me, and I'll take you to the closest one and just grab that phone number listed and get in contact with a recruiter that way.
Do you have more people who like come in over and over asking questions, or do you have more people who like come in once and they're like, all right,
Sign me up.
Jinx.
I would say it's pretty even, actually. We do have a lot of people that, unfortunately, we do have to tell no to. Just
what are the
because,
reasons? Sorry.
They're not qualified, whether that be, morally, medically, or just like education in general.
Well, I think, okay, so let's talk about stereotypes a little bit, in that, growing up, I'm 50 years old, so I'm like I am just solid Generation X. And my mindset is the kids that go into the military are the ones that either their parents couldn't afford them to go directly to college, or they had trouble with the law and they needed to, you know what I mean? They needed somebody that's going to manage them to get them switched around right. That is just not the case, correct?
Absolutely not, ma'am.
But do you understand the stereotypes I'm talking about, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But I mean, so let's talk. Like I said, what would you say to that? To like the boomer Gen Xer that's going to say, well, don't it's only this type that joins the military.
Well, I mean, specifically for the officer selection team, like we require. I mean, I'm turning away people like Staff Sergeant said too, but we require that you have that bachelor's degree, that you're medically qualified. I actually have candidates in my pool that are pursuing doctor's degrees, master's degrees. They've got their JD. So
this is people that want to come into the Marines after they've already got their degrees. We're not
Yes,
talking
ma'am.
about. So when you're saying the officer,
yes, ma'am. So that's there's a difference between the officer side and enlisted side. The officer side requires that bachelor's, that minimum bachelor's, and then that minimum GPA 2.0 and SAT ASVAB scores, where the academic requirements may not be as rigorous for the enlisted side. But that's just because, hey, we're not going to have a high school is not going to have a bachelor's degree,
right? Exactly.
But they're going to actually pursue that in the Marine Corps,
right. But if somebody's an ROTC, can't they kind of get ahead of the game when it comes to their what their title is? Like, does that make sense? What I'm asking?
I think so, ma'am. So if you do 2 years of ROTC and the
a high school level,
right, the junior ROTC program, if you do 2 years, you can get a promotion, a single promotion with the Marine Corps on the enlisted side.
Right. And so, so it's not that, you know what I mean? What are some of the reasons why do you take people based off of their age? Can somebody be too old?
Yes, ma'am. Most
Okay.
definitely.
What is that age limit?
You thinking about joining?
Maybe. You never know.
So
Our
I do.
50-year-old
I do
mom
know.
too allowed to
That's
join.
Angela in the Marine Corps ever.
I'd be like, can I decorate the barracks?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I would want to do.
What is the age range?
So for the enlisted side, we work with 17 through 29.
Okay.
We can do a waiver for up to 34 for the enlisted side. It's a little bit harder. You have to be more physically fit.
Right.
You kind of got to prove yourself a little bit just because.
You're
No,
on the
my
older
friend
side?
Edgar, he was 32 and he joined, and he did great, but he was very physically fit. He played
For sure.
soccer, and like when he told me he was 32, I couldn't believe it because like he looked like he was. He looked like he was in his early 20s. So I thought that was very cool.
Yes, and for the officer side, so that same range, we're looking at if we're putting in an age waiver, we're looking at the physical fitness.
Exactly.
And physical fitness is just saying like you have a less chance of getting injured going through our training. So that's why we have that age restriction in there.
Right. So initial enlistment out of high school or from high school. Walk us through that process because I was talking with Sergeant Moorjohn once, and she was telling me about all of the benefits of being part of the Marines and all of the opportunities that she had when it came to, you talked about college, well, she was doing it all at the same time. So like when you're talking to a 17-year-old, tell me what you tell them.
Yeah, recruit Angela.
Yeah, recruit me. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, that's a hard question to give like a overall answer to, just because it really depends on the individual.
Right.
Obviously, like there's a ton of monetary value benefits that you can get from joining the military in general.
Well, I want to hear about those. Yeah.
Okay. So we do offer you, full education benefits, which is kind of what Captain Singleton did. So he went the enlisted side, did the part-time reserves program, and then got his college paid for, and then commissioned later on.
And then you
to be an
can
officer.
you can keep that, like you can go back to school for like a long period of time after you even say you get out. How long is that? It's like years that you have that you can use that.
Yes, ma'am. So I think you're talking about the GI Bill, which a lot of people hear of. So you can actually take that and just put it in your back pocket to use later once you leave the service.
You're going to have to tell me what that is. You don't have to tell me right now, but I'm just
Okay.
They basically pay for your school.
So
essentially.
All right.
So you could go back for literally anything.
Over the GI Bill, and the Marines are going to pay for it?
Yeah.
Correct.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could do your term or whatever. You could get out and then say, I want to be a lawyer now. And then the GI Bill would pay for that.
Does it determine or restrict what colleges you go to? Because that's what I was asking Sergeant Moorjohn is I'm like, well, does it only apply to specific schools?
Any college is going to take the money. For sure.
It just, I guess, if you went to a private school, you'd have to pay maybe more out of pocket because they're probably
Right.
like, it's a limit or whatever.
Right. What I typically tell people is that if you're going to a public university, it's going to pay for your bachelor's degree for sure. If you go to a private university, depending on what else you have, maybe scholarships or something,
Right.
you might have to pay out of pocket, depending on where you go. But that GI Bill, you can save for later. You can give it to a spouse.
You can
I didn't know
give it
that.
to a
child.
spouse or a child?
You could give it to a child. That's amazing.
That is amazing.
And
know
so
that.
you have the GI Bill, but you also have tuition assistance, which is another form of tuition that the Marine Corps offers you. So if a Marine's proactive, while they're active duty, they can go to college for free as long as they maintain a 2.0 GPA.
That's what Sergeant Moorjohn was telling me about, that she was doing that. So you have to, so you're still doing your job. When I say your job, you're still doing you're showing up to your day's routine, but then you're taking classes in the evenings or on the weekends or whatever they have to offer.
Yes, ma'am. There's some stipulations to the tuition assistance, so it's about $2,500 a year that they'll offer you. But you can't take like a full load of classes. You can't take 12
class here and
credit
there.
hour. You have to take I think it's up to 2 classes per
semester.
per semester per term.
So could you technically like go to school without the tuition assistance for yourself and get your degree and then give your spouse a GI Bill? So you basically paid for education for
Two people.
That's crazy.
That's
really
that's
cool.
called working the system. But I mean, it's not like they're trying to hide it, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like you're trying to maneuver it some way it's not supposed to be. So that's amazing. I want to talk more about the education part when we get back from break. So stay tuned for more BaaD Radio.
Welcome back to BaaD Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back, and this portion of BaaD Radio is brought to you by Ground Up Property Services. With the changing of seasons, now is a good time to get your irrigation system serviced, so call Ground Up Property Services today. It's a very good idea to ask Rick Hall with Ground Up about a water sensor so your lawn doesn't get too much water. And don't forget about the lawn painting service. If you're planning an outdoor event and you want to hide those brown spots on the lawn, call 407-468-4295 or visit groundupinc.net. Welcome back again, and we are talking with Captain Anthony Singleton and Staff Sergeant Jonathan Carter with the United States Marines. There we go. That's a good one right there. So I always tend to want to jump around with questions, but before break, we were talking about the educational part and the financing of it. So what I'm hearing is that there are a lot of people that are good students, physically fit, come from middle lower class or income family. Is joining the Marines an amazing opportunity for them to not only get an education paid for, but also, like I said, find some structure, some direction.
Oh, most definitely. So we were talking about, either pursuing that higher education after high school while you're in the Marine Corps, or holding that until after you get out of the Marine Corps. So two different ways. That tuition assistance, $2,500. They're not taking that full load of courses, but before that first enlistment ends, if they're hitting it hard, they can obtain that associate's and almost to that bachelor's degree. And then if you're saving that GI Bill, so the other piece that you're not using while you're using tuition assistance is a GI Bill. So if you're saving that GI Bill, after you get out, you do your 20, you can go back and get that bachelor's or get that master's with that GI Bill.
And how does it work as far as terms go? I keep thinking 4 years. So tell me how the structure is. Let's use my son. He's 16. He's turning 17. He's a junior in college. Next year, he decides that he wants to join the Marines. He starts. So is it, just run me through it, 6 months, then we go here, then we go here. I know that there's a ton of moving because I know growing up, I had friends that were military family, and I would always be sad because they would be there for 1 year and then they were gone.
So it sounds like your son's ready to join.
You know what?
Is he really?
He would be an amazing Marine. He would. I don't know is the answer to that. You
don't know, or he doesn't know?
Well, I don't know what he thinks.
Okay.
Aiden's a quiet kid. He's really athletic. He's a baseball player. So right now he's pitching, and we're talking to colleges about him throwing, you know what I mean, in college. So, but Sergeant Marjon said, she goes, Marines have baseball. Let's talk. We can talk about the sports part too, but let's just use that as a scenario. So, as a mom, with my son looking at the Marines, what does that look like?
So you are typically looking at a 4-year term of service. Now we do have, a 5-year obligation, but that really depends on the job that he's selecting. So if he has like an aviation job, for example, his schoolhouse is going to be practically a year long within itself. So it's going to be a 5-year obligation.
And usually they're 6 months, or is it shorter? Because you're saying
for the school.
Yes.
Yeah, for anything in the aviation field, you're typically looking at like an average of 6 month schooling.
Okay.
So I don't know if he could do that. Aiden's colorblind. I think that limits him to certain things because he can't see. I think it's the blue-yellow thing. He just can't differentiate the colors. So I know that limits him on certain things, especially when it comes to flying planes or anything aviation or electrical. You don't want. I don't think he's going to be an electrician. What color is that wire?
Oh,
Not
no.
sure. Anyway, but they have to go off. No matter what, you go off to basic training, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All
So
right.
how long are those terms? And then what's the next step after that?
So for every Marine, you're going to go to, for the enlisted side, you'll go to 3 months of recruit training.
Where's that at?
That's at Parris Island, South Carolina.
And everybody goes to Parris Island. There's
So-
not multiple places in the United States.
There's actually 2. There is one in San Diego,
Okay.
but we're split up from the Mississippi River.
So I get it. Mississippi on one side goes to the east side and the west side. Okay. And so is that a Marine screaming in your face, telling you get down and give him 20?
Yes. It's very challenging. It's something that's completely different from what people are normally used to in the civilian world. but it is 3 months long, and you do get 9 college credits while you're there, while you're getting screamed at. So that's a plus.
Is there classroom work during that time?
There is. There's actually a lot of it. People are usually surprised with how much classroom work that you'll be doing while you're at recruit training.
And what courses do they cover, or is it just everything?
A lot of history classes, obviously like Marine Corps history as well.
I like that. That's
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. A lot of, physical fitness classes, nutrition classes, stuff like that.
I think that's all just really good stuff that people should be taught anyway.
So you said that's for 3 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then what do you do after that?
So after that, you go to Marine combat training to get the basic fundamentals of a combat environment. That's going to be a month long. And that's going to be 6 college credits.
And how is that? Is that fun, or is that scary, or?
For the Marines, they usually like that one a lot better because, you're a Marine at that point. You're not getting screamed at, yelled at 24/7. You're really learning about the weapon systems, grenades, rocket launchers.
That sounds
the cool stuff.
More
right?
fun.
Right, it does. The screaming part doesn't sound so good. I've seen Full Metal Jacket. I've seen all of those movies. So my son did have a baseball coach, though, that was very military-ish. And so, they understand what it takes to, to do hard work and bear craws. And you know what a bear crawl is?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he's like, I've been there. They used to do this one thing, too, though, where they'd have to carry each other and just run laps.
Fireman's carry.
Yeah, that's it
Yes,
right
ma'am.
there. And I'm like, sometimes they got paired up, and I'm like, that's not going to work.
Y'all need to match body weight.
Right.
Funny.
Which was more challenging for you, the first 3 months or the next month after that?
For me personally, it was the next month. It was just the 1 month. It was short. It was fairly easy, but I was just trying to go to the fleet and do my job in the Marine
Right.
Corps. I was just super eager to get that
Right.
out of the way.
And then did you go through the same exact process, but you went a little bit of a different route, correct?
Yes, ma'am. So I went to boot camp, Marine combat training, MOS school.
So no matter where you start, you have to do those 2 pieces.
So it's the same training per se on the officer side, but officer candidate school, 10 weeks long, and then depending on where you are in school, or if you're graduated, then you move on to the basic school. So that's Marine combat training for officers, essentially teaching that officer how to be a basic provisional rifle platoon commander.
Right.
Because every Marine's a rifleman, every Marine officers are basic provisional rifle platoon commander. So that school for us is 6 months long. We're going through the same classes that every Marine's going through, and going up to company level, learning how to be that company level basic provisional rifle platoon commander.
So not everybody that joins the Marines wants to be an officer. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Or they do want to be an officer.
No,
they don't.
Every Marine officer enlists as a Marine. They just want to be a Marine.
Yeah,
Yes,
right. So how many times are you allowed to rejoin? Like, or once your 4 or 5 years obligation's up, can you, if that's what you are comfortable doing and you like what you're doing, can you continue to stay in the Marines?
So you can. Obviously, as long as you don't get in trouble or anything like that. I actually had a guy, Mr. Peter Dowling. He's actually a professor at UCF, and he's a teacher at Winter Park High School, who recently re-entered the Marine Corps. He had joined in 2005. Are you sure
it's not Winter Springs High School? It's Winter Park?
Winter Park High School.
Okay, because my son goes Winter Springs. He told me about somebody like that, one of his teachers, his history teacher. But anyway, keep going. Yeah,
yeah, it was pretty public. It was pretty popular. So he had joined in 2005, got out medically, recovered, and all he's wanted to do since then is become a Marine. So it happened.
Right, but I guess you had to sign one of those waivers for him then, huh?
It was a long one. It was a lengthy one.
Oh, I love hearing about this. I feel like like I said, I appreciate you helping me pull this rope to get this information out of you guys. But really, what I want to do is just build the scene of what it's like. So that's really what we're trying to do here today. Is just really, like I said, let everybody know what it's like from the inside of the Marines. So everybody, stay tuned because we have another full hour with the Marine Corps. So stay tuned.
Stick around. You're listening to BaaD Radio, Central Florida's premier radio show about local businesses and business networking. We'll be right back.
You're You are listening to Radio Cosmos.
All night long.
Bravo!
My compliments, little lady.
Come on, shout.
Break for 30 seconds.
Come on, shout.
Get to transmission.
You are now listening to BaaD Radio.
Welcome back as we launch into our second hour of BaaD Radio. I'm going to run through all of the regular info for those of you who might have just joined us. I am Angela Smarito, your host, and we've got our co-host and videographer, Melissa Jacob.
Hello, hello, hello.
It's a two-person clap. We're just all going to add in there. Her business is called Striking Brand, and you can go to actually baadradio.com. That's BAAD radio.com, and you can see all of our previous episodes of the show because Melissa does a fantastic job. And you can see all of the rest of her work at strikingbrand.com. So if you guys need a photographer or you need some video work done, this is the girl. This is who you call right here. And you can go to strikingbrand.com to get all of that. All right. So we've had the first hour with the U.S. Marines, and we're going to have the second hour. So we have Captain Anthony Singleton and Staff Sergeant Jonathan Carter. That's a little bit of the Staff Sergeant thing is a little bit of a mouthful. So it's almost like, how do they come up with all of the different the different levels? Actually, that's a good question. So you said Staff Sergeant, and you called it an E6.
Yes, ma'am.
What does that actually stand for, E6?
So it's the numeric value of the rank structure for the enlisted side.
And it's out of 10?
It's out of 9.
9? All right. So you're above the halfway mark.
I'm getting there. You know.
Is it all just got to do with the length of time that you're in the service?
It does. There's length of service as well as just, performance based as well. You can get promoted a lot faster. You could get promoted slower. It's about your work ethic, really.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you just have regular evaluations where they bring you in? It's almost, it's like a job, right?
Pretty much. Yeah.
But you can live, like you have to find your own housing and everything, right?
No.
No?
They supply housing, even if you have a family, if it's not just you. They have a housing that can be on base or off base. Don't they give you like a stipend or something, a certain amount of money? And then if you live on base, it's free.
Wow.
I know. I miss it. That part I miss so much. No mortgage. Like the thing is they just assign you a house essentially.
Do you think you could use your dad's GI Bill for one of your kids?
I mean, for a grandchild?
Possibly.
I don't know.
Cha-ching. Hello.
I know.
Seriously. All right. So where do you see yourself going from here? So you're working in recruitment. What are some of your next goals?
My next goal is kind of undecided right now. Me and my wife are trying to figure that one out. We're kind of debating whether staying on recruiting duty because, it's something that we both enjoy.
Is she a Marine as well?
She's not. She's
Okay.
not. She's actually a social worker. She recently graduated from UCF with
Nice.
her master's. Yes,
How long have you been in?
I've been in for 7 years.
7 years. Okay, wow, that's a while. So you've been on a couple different.
Well,
What are
yeah,
they called?
he said he graduated in 2016. So you've been in the military since high school. I mean, like you said, you're before junior, senior year, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, I've been to a couple different places so far. I'm trying to decide, stay recruiting or go back to my regular MOS.
Which
Don't they?
was,
I'm so sorry. Don't they usually like alternate? Like,
Yeah.
one duty station is like more intense, and then the other one is going to be like
they'll go do their special duty assignment.
you got to pull that closer to you there. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So I think you're typically saying like for 4 years they'll do their MOS and they'll go do a special duty assignment,
right.
And then they'll typically branch off to where, hey, do they want to stay on that special duty assignment, such as recruiting, or do they want to go back to their?
So you have a choice at that point to stay.
Needs a Marine Corps, but yes, ma'am.
As much of a choice as you can in the military. Yeah, I understand.
And it's a little bit different for the officer side. So I don't have a choice to like stay out here per se. So my route, I already kind of know where I want to go next. I'm letting my monitor know. Expeditionary Warfare School. So
What does that
my
entail?
career level school. So that's basically I need to go back and learn some more about being a captain, getting ready to get promoted to major. What does that look like? Because I kind of get generalized within my MOS. So I'm specifically an air defense control officer, but there's 3 other MOSs that are in my field per se. So the 72XX field. But as an air defense control officer, I'm in a Marine Air Control Squadron. Marine Air Control Squadron is composed of those 3 other MOSs. At that point, I'm a major. I can be in like the XO or the OPSO, and I will know, hey, how do I manage ATC? How do I manage air defense? How do I manage, not LAD, but DASC? How do I manage those pieces? So you're more like generalized.
Is everything that you guys are taught outside of the recruitment part, is it all generalized for if we go to war?
And in what way? Everything we're taught.
Well, everything that you're talking about right now is all. This is training. You're being trained.
Yes, ma'am.
Is all of that training directed around just the protection of the United States?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Most definitely. That's what we're the beginning of our training. Boot camp, OCS. Hey, we're starting at the lowest levels and then building up. What does it look like to be in a fire team? What does it look like to be in a buddy pair? What does it look like to be in a fire team? All the way up to that, that squadron or battalion level, to where you're in charge of like 1,200 or 3,000 Marines.
Wow.
How do all those pieces come together? So how does a fire team fit within a battalion? Every aspect of our training is for deterrence.
Right. So let's talk about enlistment and recruitment, because from what I understand, that they call it a recruitment crisis. I don't like using the word crisis because to me, the word crisis makes a big red thing go up and
It
say an
starts
emergency, whoop, whoop,
Anxiety,
whoop.
internal
Yeah.
anxiety.
So based off of the history, what does recruitment look like today compared to 10 years ago?
I think the biggest difference is we do have a system. It's a military health system called Genesis. So it's basically like a medical records check system. This used to not be a thing. So individuals could come into the recruitment offices and just, they would say, I'm a clean slate. I have no medical issues, nothing wrong with me. And if they stuck with the story, they're getting into the Marine Corps. But now we have this system that's going to check those medical records. So if there is something in the medical history, obviously that's going to be flagged. Maybe a waiver can be done for it, but maybe not.
So are there like more people who are coming to be recruited into one of the armed forces like now that you're seeing, or is it like lower number of
I heard
people?
it was lower. I heard that people are, they don't, what is it? What is the word? Is that the society, the younger generation is just almost
On TikTok.
scared. Yeah, on TikTok instead of doing something, really cool.
Worth
like this.
anything.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry.
I'd say that's driven by they just don't know, which is why we're here talking about
Right.
it. They don't know the opportunities. They see the movies and they think, oh, I'm gonna go die in war.
Right.
85% of the Marine Corps
Is
is
not
not
even-
combat arms.
yeah.
Right.
There's you said staff sergeant. There's 350 MOSs on the officer side, and on the enlisted side, and there's 27, on the officer side.
So those are all different jobs,
right?
Yeah, they're
that
all-
you can
Directions that you can go.
Yes, ma'am. And specifically for the officer side, like every step, like if you don't pass, so if you go to infantry officers course, and in my case, like he case, I'm not an infantry officer. So like I'm not on the front lines per se, in that sense. But I think the recruiting crisis we're talking about now is just like not a well informed society about what the military in general,
like how you can the different paths that you can take.
the opportunities.
Yeah,
that are there.
That's what I mean. When you see the advertising for the military, I don't ever see anything that actually talks about all of the different pieces that are the benefits.
Right.
I mean, they talk about the pride and all that,
And the people in the you see the person in the helicopter,
right? Or
Yeah.
and I get that. I totally get that. But I think that the piece that's totally missing is exactly that. The educational opportunity, the opportunity for growth, structure,
the different like things that you can do after you get out of the military.
challenge.
Yeah.
The challenge of it all.
Yeah, well, we're going to continue this conversation, so stay tuned for more BaaD Radio.
You're listening to BaaD Radio, Central Florida's premier radio show about local businesses and business networking. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to BaaD Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back, and this portion of the show is brought to you by Frogger's Grill and Bar. Are you ready for the ultimate sports experience? Look no further than Frogger's Grill and Bar. We've got your sports fix covered with Saturday and Sunday football. Catch all the action on all the tons of high-definition TVs while enjoying drink specials available all week long. And don't miss out on Frogger's amazing menu where everything is fresh, never frozen. Oviedo, Mount Dora, Apopka, and Altamont Springs. Frogger's. Hop in with food and fun. We are here with Captain Singleton and Staff Sergeant Carter with the United States Marines. And we talked about a lot of stuff, but we're talking about recruitment because both of these gentlemen are part of that part of the Marines. And so we were talking about on the break a little bit about some inspirational stories. And Melissa was telling me about her brother.
Yeah, my brother, because you mentioned about the types of people who usually go in. And I think another one might be sometimes people might not have like a natural passion for like one specific thing, or probably just not the experience. They don't know what's out there. So my brother, after he graduated high school, kind of just chilled for a little bit. And then he went into a bunch of different recruiting offices and ended up going into the Navy. And now he is
Well, before you tell us what he is, was it your parents that were like, you got to do something? Or was he finally
probably
just like, I'm tired of just
No,
doing
probably
nothing?
probably both.
Yeah.
And then he kind of felt it too. Like, he was a pitcher. He went to college and pitched in college. And then after that, he was like, he's not going professional. Like,
right.
What's he
It's a
going to do
tough time.
then?
You know what I mean? It's like, what do you
Right.
do?
Right. So then he went into the Navy and he is a nuclear engineer now.
That's so amazing.
And so that's just really awesome. So not just, so you can tell like a whole different transformation in him because he kind of feels like he has like a more of a purpose and like a direction to go. Whereas
Right.
when you like get out of high school and college and say he's been pitching and now there wasn't really another thing that was a passion besides pitching.
Right.
It's like kind of, directionless. So he's doing that now and he's looking to be like an electrician after he gets out. So they like train you and you can use that.
Outgoing.
Yeah.
What I was telling you guys earlier is that there's a show that I will record after this called Boots to Business, and that the host is a vet too, and he talks a lot about transitioning from you're in the military, and I think he said he did 4, I don't know what they're called, 4 waves or whatever, 4 tours over the Middle East and stuff, and he said coming back was just such a shock to his system. I think he said that he took a job like a delivery, like Amazon delivery or something, and he was like, wait, what? I'm way more qualified than this. So it is a little bit of a shock to the system. Do you guys, this isn't the question I was going to ask you, but do you have do you have a plan for after the military?
For me specifically, I either while I'm about to get out or immediately after, I want to get my project management, license, just to pair that with my degree that I have now. But the other plan is retire, travel the country with the wife, play golf as much as I can.
Nice, right? Absolutely. What about you? You said you and your wife were kind of like on the fence about staying here, going elsewhere. Do you have a choice of where you want to go?
I do have a choice. Yeah, we're trying to decide which field I want to fall under in the Marine Corps. But for the military, my plan is to just stay in the Marine Corps as long as I can.
You're in a career.
Yeah, as long as they'll keep me, I'll stay in. But, for people that want to do the 4 years and then transition into something else, we do have a lot of programs that not a lot of people talk about where we're kind of getting you adapted to that civilian lifestyle.
Like a business
right?
lifestyle.
Yeah, because it is different being in the Marine Corps in a sense, because you're always
We've got somebody telling
hustling.
you what to do, right? Or you have a schedule that you have to stick to.
Right, exactly. So we have a transition readiness seminar. We build professional resumes, and then going back into the networking aspect, just talking with different companies, and trying to get you set up. Like for me personally, I've been in the aviation community with the Marine Corps for 7 years, and I've worked hand in hand with like Lockheed Martin,
Nice.
Boeing, Rolls-Royce, which I never even knew
Right.
they did anything aircraft, but they do.
Oh, I didn't either.
I didn't
Yeah.
either. I knew about what was it, Lockheed Martin.
Mhm,
My
mhm.
dad used to work for Northrop Grumman and Lockheed.
Mhm.
He was an electrical engineer. He worked with something with radars or
Mhm.
something.
Oh,
So we weren't military, but we actually had to go to Germany. We lived in Germany for quite a spell with that. I'm not, but people always ask me if we were military. I was like, no, I just know.
That's so weird.
I know, right? So you're gonna try to stay in as like you want to be career.
100%.
I like that
Yeah.
though.
Is
What
there so I'm so sorry. Is there an age that you have to like you could just stay in the military until you die? Or is there an age that they're like, get on out of here?
The it depends, officer enlisted. So I don't know the exact age, but getting to sergeant major, I want to say it's like before 50. I want to say.
I would agree.
And
that's the top goal.
yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
E9. I won't say sergeant majors, but E9
Mhm.
in the military, and then for the officer side, once you make it to that 4-star general, then you've got 4 years, essentially in that branch of service, and then if you serve as like the Secretary of Defense, or you're the that service level chief, then you've got another 4 years or whatever that term is that the commander in chief, has.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that goes all up into the whole the
Sorry.
political world. I was like,
Sorry.
dang, no, not at all. When you're sitting down with somebody and talking with them, and it's what are some of the questions that you guys get asked from a recruitment
Mhm.
standpoint? And I'm sure that there's different ones from your level to like
Mhm.
the people, the younger ones.
Yes, ma'am. So for the officer side, it's more or less what does the process look like?
Mhm.
So answering that question is, hey, we're starting with the initial screening questionnaire. 70% of the applicants we run into, both officer and enlisted, are initially disqualified for some reason. Doesn't mean that can't be handled with a waiver, but medically, morally, physically, a lot of people can't run the PFT. So our physical fitness tests and the times that we and the I guess the requirements that we have,
Right.
but it's not like we can't work towards that.
Right. So
Um,
they can train.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, hey, what's the application process look like? Okay, how do I contract? What's a contract mean? A contract means like you're found medically, morally, physically qualified to be submitted to a board to get looked at for officer candidate school. That doesn't mean that when I sign my name that day that I'm in the military. That's completely different for the enlisted side. Once they sign, like, hey, they're going to boot camp.
It's like get on a bus.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And then, after that contract, hey, you go on a board. The board is very selective. So, hey, where do you rank out with all of the applicants that are in college across America or graduates across America? Okay, we're only going to take 350 to go to this next OCS class. Then when you're at OCS, you have a chance to get dropped there too. It's not a guarantee that you
That
graduate.
sounds like a little nerve wracking.
Yeah. So
Just passing different levels.
so it's
Right.
that's basically what they're asking, and then, hey, how do I get in better physical shape? Because really, truly, we can handle the medical stuff. We can handle the moral stuff with waivers and whatnot. But we're PTing with the applicants, with the pulleys, getting them physically ready to attempt this training.
Yeah.
So
well,
how does that work if you get
I asked a question. That'd be a
all
cliffhanger.
right, so if you get denied, if you get turned away, like, do you have to wait a certain amount of time to apply again, or do you, if there's like one aspect that you got denied based on like the physical thing, you just keep working on it with them until they pass it, and then you're like, okay, you're good now?
So it depends.
You know what? That's going to be. Oh, he said ignore the music. Go ahead and answer.
Okay.
So it depends. If it's medical, it may be a time period that they have to wait per our DOTI, so our medical manual.
Right.
That basically says, like, hey, if you have this, you have to wait a certain.
Well, I would think that the biggest thing would be obesity is going to be the biggest problem, is that people just don't understand how to eat right. And so it's almost like losing weight and being able to do that,
Yes, ma'am.
to perform that.
I mean, I wouldn't say that's it's your ADHD is a big
Really?
disqualifier. I mean, you're waiting. Is it 2 years? I want to say
2 years off
Yeah.
medication.
You're waiting 2 years off medication right there.
Oh, okay.
Physical fitness. I mean, typically we see an applicant get within, the physical fitness standards, weighting standards within 5 months, 4 to 5 months.
Right. Well, that's really interesting. That leaves a lot of more questions. So we're going to go to break, though, and when we get back, we're going to have more BaaD Radio, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to BaaD Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back, and this portion of the show is brought to you by Liberty Property Inspections. Your home is one of your most important investments, so don't trust it to just anyone. LibertyPropertyInspections.net, helping you protect your investment. We had them in last week, and we spent half of their time talking about the ghost stories and whatnot.
That was a very different episode.
I don't know. We're here with the Marines today, and we have Captain Singleton and Staff Sergeant Carter. Oh, I'm going to get it right. I'm going to get it right by the end of the show.
You got one more chance.
I know, right? Words. I say it all the time. Words are hard. And we've been talking about recruitment, and we've been talking about your guys' past history and moving forward. Like I said, what are some of the things that you do now for recruitment? I'm personally aware of the events. Like when I say events, we're talking about the Marines being at Earth Day birthday. Do you guys both work those types of events? And what are some of the other recruitment activities that you do?
Yes, ma'am. So I wasn't at the Earth Day birthday last year. But yes, ma'am, we typically work those events. We also have the going to the career fairs, going into the high schools. We'll have class talks, like Staff Sergeant said earlier. We'll have we'll send out a flyer and, hey, come to the Marine Pull-Up Bar. We'll be on campus today. There's nothing going on per se that's tied to that pull-up bar, but hey, we'll be on campus today. Just spreading the word, basically with like, hey, we know we have a pull-up bar here, but there's more opportunities than just getting in a back workout.
Right. But you had been at a couple of events that I helped organize with Sergeant Moore, John, and you said that you got some good signups from that, but you said that you didn't have exactly the best results from those type of things.
So I typically would set up at a football game.
Like a high school football game?
So a college football game.
Okay.
So I'll have it's a great way to expose us to the kids that are in elementary school. They're coming up and doing pull-ups, but typically
they're so cute.
The people that come up to me, they've been drinking.
Don't say
that. They want to go watch the football game. They're there to have a good time, and we're there to provide that for them as well. But yeah, that's just been my experience.
Right.
Yes.
And then for you said that you had a little bit of a better outcome.
Yeah, we usually do pretty good for the enlistment side on big events like that. It just gets us exposure to more people, more volume. So the more that we can talk with, the young men and women, and then the parents, most importantly, if we could talk with the parents, usually that's the big sell right there.
So you just recruit people to go in as an officer?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I
Yes,
didn't
ma'am.
know that.
And,
I thought it was just in general in the Marine Corps.
And I'll actually take that back. So my initial interaction with the Marines was at a pull-up bar on a college campus on Alabama's campus.
That's
now,
fantastic.
Did I know that was leading towards me joining the Marine Corps? No, but I went and did. I thought I did 20 pull-ups, and they counted 8, and I went and bought a pull-up bar the next day. Before I went to not before I went to boot camp, but about 6 years later, before I went to OCS, I was doing 50 pull-ups easy. So I didn't know that.
Oh wow, you definitely get a T-shirt for that.
Yes, but I think it's a good exposure. Like, hey, I didn't know that was one thing in my life that led me to joining, but it did.
Right. Well, that's just it. A lot of it is exposure, because I know at Earth Day birthday we would bring in the big rig, and then we would bring in the Hummer, and we would set it up, and and then there was Marines that were there, and so people do drink at Earth Day birthday, but the cool part is that it allowed the people that are attending the concert to have conversations and to actually see that these are the Marines. They're here and they're happy and they're having a good time, but they're also very respectable. They're, you know what I mean? And so they know that if you join in, it's not like you just have to it's more than just getting yelled at all the time is really what it boils down to. The pull-up bar, no matter what, was always a hit. I'm trying to remember what we did before the pull-up bar. I can't even remember what it was.
Was it ammo can lifts or?
It might have been.
Yes, ma'am.
It might have been.
Yeah, so we'll do that, and then we'll bring out we actually have a 18-wheeler that has some Pugil 6 and boxing that you can do. So you can kind of see like, hey, if I'm going through the McMAPS or a Marine Corps martial arts program, these are kind of the moves that I would.
They have a martial arts program.
Oh yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So people don't even know about that. Like you go all the way from tan to black belt. I mean, black belt with how many tabs is it? Like 3 or 5, 3 to 5. I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
like
amazing.
There's 1 to 2 Marines that have that in the Marine Corps, but you're closely mirroring jiu-jitsu and whatnot.
And then tell me about the sports as well.
So we have quite a few different sports, and you can go all the way up to the Olympic level. So recently we actually had an enlisted staff sergeant in the Marine Corps. I think it was 2001 that had never wrestled before, joined the Marine Corps, heard that there was a wrestling team on base, so he started wrestling. And then obviously the coaches were like, "Wow, you got some natural talent going on." And he went to a collegiate level, athlete level. He started wrestling for Team USA and then went to the Olympics. I believe he got
so cool.
second in his class.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
That's so cool.
But there's baseball and football. I know there's football because I think it's like the Army Navy game is huge. But does the Marines have a football team as well?
Yes, ma'am. So Army Navy game, Naval Academy. There's when you're at the Naval Academy, there's a Marine option. Same thing as ROTC. You're in the Naval ROTC, but there's a Marine option with that. I actually had the quarterback from 2018 from Naval Academy, my TBS class. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a lot of Naval Academy, attendees, graduates in my TBS class there. So,
But here's the thing: is like I did not know that the Armed Forces had sports until I had a conversation with Sergeant Morjohn six months ago.
Yes,
I had no clue. Why don't you guys promote that? I mean, I don't understand. He's like, well, it's not me. It's not my fault.
Don't talk to me. I'm not marketing. Thank you.
Talk to the national agency up in Gainesville or in Georgia. I'm like, just kidding.
So how does that work? Like you could be like in the MOS and you could just like try out for the team and then you get to be on the thing, or do you have to? Okay.
Yeah, basically, if you're good enough at the sport, we're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Basically.
Cool. Oh, you get paid for it?
You do, yes.
Oh, heck yeah. You get paid on top of like your regular?
Well, it's just, your salary, but you're going to be, going to practice and doing that sport full time if you're good enough. Right.
Wow. That gives a lot. I mean, like I said, that's something that should be promoted heavily. It would help so much with recruitment because, again, there are so many kids, when I say kids, young adults, that are playing. What about softball?
I don't know about that.
Volleyball?
We do have like on base soft. We don't have anything above like on base softball.
Yeah.
But if we at each Marine Corps base, you can basically just make any sports team you want, and if it gets well developed enough, you can play against other bases, other Marine Corps bases, other military bases. It just has to be developed. For like softball,
right? But
maybe
football and
even kickball
baseball are the
stuff.
two big ones, and then you said wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that I'm gonna have to talk to somebody because if you guys want more women to enlist, then you should have softball and volleyball because that's huge. You know how many girls go up into college, and they can go to junior college and then regular college, and volleyball will take them. Emily's daughter is playing in Jacksonville right now on a volleyball scholarship.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, if you don't know, you don't know, right?
I'm going to look it up.
She's like, I'm going to look it up
I need to
right
know.
now. So what are some of the other, let's talk about some of the other challenges for recruitment. I mean, if you could have a magic wand and wave it over the whole recruitment world, what would you put out there that you think would make your jobs a little bit easier? I know what I'm thinking.
Oh, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking about like the advertising, like how much money is being spent on billboards and radio, and you guys don't spend a lot of money on radio, but on television, or you know what I mean? It's like those are going to the masses, but the message is not what we're talking about right here.
Yes, ma'am. So that's the initial message. Hey, we're a warfighting organization. That is going to be the primary messaging. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, any other company isn't going to show, what else is going on. That's for that potential applicant to be, they see that, okay, now I'm going to go to the Marines. What else do they offer? What else do the other military services offer? So that initial messaging, absolutely stick with it, because if you come in and think this isn't a warfighting organization, and then you're at boot camp, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, I've been tricked into, you haven't been tricked. Like,
Right.
you didn't ask the proper question.
We'll be right back with more BaaD Radio.
Welcome back to BaaD Radio, brought to you by Premier Couple Superstore, because a couple that plays together stays together.
Welcome back. I want to give a huge thank you to our sponsors, Bolts Legal. Fear no storm with boltslegal.com. 33 Tanning Spa with locations in Altamont Springs and Longwood. Andrews Law PA, auto accident attorney, andrewslawpa.com. Crazy Muscle Nutrition, 1015 Unit 129 on 436 in Castleberry. Imbalanced Bodywork in Lake Mary. Forge IT Consulting, providing a fully outsourced IT department with a personal touch for small business.
Girl, I love our sponsors.
I know.
That's awesome.
Well, I know. You know what? That's how I pay for everything.
Oh, they're amazing.
Yeah, it's through sponsorships, and so
Just made me smile because it's like we're growing.
I know
love
we
it.
are. It's nice. I love our sponsors, but yes, it's the sponsors that kind of make everything possible. I used to always wonder, like, because you could listen to the radio, right? And the radio is free. So I used to always wonder, but it's those commercials that you hear during the stop breaks is what's paying for that on-air talent, that's paying for the studio. And so, like I said, we're no different. So I have to pay for the studio time. That's how it works. So, so this is actually a business for me. So, all right. So this is our last segment. And so I told them, I'm like, this is the hard close. This is where you've got somebody in front of you, and you guys are held accountable for recruitment, right? Like you have a quota.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And where does that quota come from? Is it like who makes that up? Is it based off of like trends? Is it like just a wish list? Is somebody just like trying to say, we need 10, or how does that work?
Yes, ma'am. So that's based off the National Defense Authorization Act, signed by Congress. They tell the armed services where your instra needs to be here this year. Your instra needs to be here the following year, and then that mission is then pushed down to us, and it's divided up. That's why we have recruiters all across America. It's divided up. Hey, officer enlisted. Hey, how many enlisted do we need to assess? What's the manpower strength that we need to have in the Marine Corps? In a specific MOS, a specific base, so on and so forth. But does that kind of answer?
Yeah,
yes,
no,
ma'am?
it does,
Yes,
because that's a question. Because like I'm all about sales. That's how my brain's wired,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
it's you get a budget, you hit your budget, you don't hit your budget. What assets are you provided with in order to achieve your budget? Now I know on the marketing side, based off of like setting up events, and you guys having the opportunity to work those events. So I know that there's that there. What about you? I mean, are you given like the same kind of quota? And is everybody in that one office working towards the same goal, or do you have a individual one?
Ours is a little bit different. Nationally, for the Marine Corps with recruiting duty, just write 2 people a month. If you can enlist 2 Marines per month, everybody's doing great. Obviously, people are going to drop below that. People are going to go well above that. But
do you think
that's
that
the average.
regional, like, or where they are geographically, makes a big difference? Like, do you have more people that sign up in the cities and the urban areas, or in the? I mean, like, I would venture to say, like, out in Hicksville, it's going to be hard because they don't have as many people there.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, it's based off propensity to serve. The propensity is higher in the South for certain stuff, and then propensity is higher in the North for certain MOSs and whatnot. But it's just based off of an area, and we do look at that from a higher level standpoint with like,
Is it like
hey,
per capita kind of thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So we take the population into account heavily.
What are some of the questions, like, when you're there and you're talking with somebody and you're like, this person's going to be a good Marine? What do you say to them? What are some of the questions that you ask them?
And so, where do you see yourself in 20 or 30 years?
What kind of answers do you get?
I mean, some don't see them. They don't look that far, and that's fine. Some are like, hey, I want a stable lifestyle. I want to be able to support my family. All of the regular things that anybody would want. I want to be successful. Like that's a common answer. So okay, how do you see that the Marine Corps can make you successful, help you be successful? Well, the Marine Corps can help me be successful through, challenging me to grow, get outside my comfort zone, instilling discipline, self-reliance, responsibility. I'm very patriotic, so I want to serve my country.
So you just like did a reverse sales thing on them. That's
Yes,
pretty
ma'am.
bright.
And then-
That's like that's great.
Like, hey, you said it. What's the logical decision to make? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to be a Marine? So that's basically how it goes. So it's really not selling them. It's the kid, the applicant, telling themselves like, yes, I can do it.
That's actually brilliant. That is actually a sales technique is
Yes,
to like put something on the table and just don't say anything and let them talk. And there's a percentage of them that will actually close themselves because they don't know what else to do if you're not talking. And they'll just sit there and continue on. And then the next thing you know, they're like, okay, where do I sign?
100%. Yeah.
Do you have the same?
Yeah, most definitely. And every individual is different. One of the most important things that I've found on recruiting duty is just listening with a purpose. Hands
I love that.
down.
That's fantastic.
It's so important because I don't know what it is, but these young men and women sometimes just don't have anybody to listen to them, and they could just sit there and talk to you for hours about what they want, how they think they can get there, and all that we're doing is just helping them develop a plan and showing them what we have to offer in the Marine Corps. And so if you're listening to an individual, we're not really selling the Marine Corps. They're just learning about it and they're selling themselves.
Right. I love that. And that's so true. I think that that's really what makes the Marines and any of the armed services so appealing is the structure and that you got to trust the process. And I don't know if you guys use that term a lot, trust the process.
We do.
Yeah. Do you?
Yeah.
That was from the baseball coach that I was told me that was very Marine or very
Military.
our military like is that he used to always say trust the process. Even if you don't understand it and you don't like it or something doesn't make sense, you just got to kind of trust it. So what would you like to see? I mean, on the recruitment basis, you have an opportunity right now. We're talking to a good thousands of people right now. We're not towards the end of the break, but I really want to get out there. How do people get in touch with you? Because I'm going to have you repeat it again. But what are the various ways that they can get in touch with the Marines?
So for the Orlando location, if you want to just, you can call us or text us at 813-267-5608. Or you could just
Do you have people
message
email
on social
email
media.
or I mean, what is the way that you guys prefer people to come or to get or questions answered?
a call or text or just on social media.
You said social media, like where? Just
on Instagram.
anything? That just is so bizarre to me.
What, somebody get on
Facebook.
I mean,
Instagram?
I get it. You message people on Instagram, but I mean, like for like a career.
We have 2 minutes. So, but I think that's cool though, because they're with the times,
God,
you
I'm
know.
old.
For the officer selection team in Orlando, so I cover Central Florida from Daytona all the way down to Tampa. So the cell phone number is 321-436-0517 or Anthony.Singleton at marines.usmc.mil. But really, just for any office, hey, somebody wants information, marines.com.
Marines.com.
And request more information at the top. That's going to send it to whatever office, depending on what information that you put in there. So if you're in high school, hey, you're going to, or if you don't have that, you're not in college, it's going to send it to the enlisted office. If it shows that you're in college or have attained that bachelor's degree, I'm going to get that that contact information.
That's
so that's
great.
that's by far the easiest way.
You guys, I think I've seen a QR code that you guys put on a lot of the information that you put out.
Yes, ma'am, and that's actually the marines.com. It sends it to request more information.
So we can do that when we do the video. We can do the QR, just put the marines.com like on the YouTube when we get that published. So, all right, so we still have a minute. So we're going to start. Let's start. Go ahead and get out all your contact information and tell people how to get in touch with you.
Okay, so obviously marines.com, you can put an information request in there. You can contact the Orlando office, 813-267-5608, or message on Instagram, SSGT_Carter.
Okay.
And then for the officer selection team, looking at 321-436-0517 or anthony.singleton@marines.com. On Instagram, it's OST Orlando Marines.
Very nice.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all for being here today.
Thanks
Oh,
for
you
having
can
us.
find me at strikingbrand.com or email melissa@strikingbrand.com.
And I am Angela, and on Facebook, it's Business at a Distance, Central Florida Networking. Huge thank you to our sponsors, and thank you for tuning in. Have a great week, everyone.